So I think we have all the tech needed now for our particle system or the debris system to work properly, and I've imported the source, which is this one, the edge separation, and I imported the original sim, which we're not going to plug in at the moment because it's a bit slow to read, and this is conch. So I'm going to use this as the emitter, and I'm going to use the conch for the collision geometry. So let's connect these two, and let's dive inside, and I'm gonna set this to 10 or maybe 4, and let's hit play. And let me change, don't show the guy. I don't want to change the color of the particles, so I'm gonna disable updating the colors here, and I'm gonna go to the velocity, and instead of add to inherited velocity, I'm gonna reduce the inherent velocity so the particles drags behind the source. And let's see, and there we go. That's our conch interacting with all the particles, and look how fast it is. Cool. So one thing we would want to fix is this jittering here. Sorry, first of all, let's add a ground. So we would want to fix that, the gap in the emission. Let's hit play. Okay, and this is the gap I don't want to see, these tapping. So we're gonna change the birth here to negative, and then the interpolation source I'm gonna set it to forward. I'm gonna use point velocity, and that's gonna help. It's gonna use the velocity to break up the emission. Cool. You see here, the interaction is working really well. Okay, let's go up and let's copy the noise system that we did. We probably have to fix a few things first. So let's check the fit range along the height, and let's connect this to the color. I'm gonna turn off V for now, just so we can visualize the height. Okay, so it's still, that range is very small, so let's try 10 times, 0 to 50. Okay, so let's try 30. I want to affect a bit more, yeah, something like that. And let's connect the velocity now and see how that looks. So this blend, and anything that is going up is not getting affected. Anything that is falling down, we're gonna affect with the noise. And I'm gonna change this to a kernel noise. It's a 3D. And let's set the frequency to 4, 4, and 4. Let's connect this. And let's hit play. Too much noise. And let's add a pop drag. Maybe 0.025. And it's gonna calm down everything. Yeah, the noise is too much. Let's try 0.1, or maybe let's try lower the frequency first. And the amplitude. I think the frequency is still high, so let's try 0.1, 1.1, and let's try setting this to 2 so we can clearly see how big the pattern is. Yep, much better now. And I'm gonna put a clamp here just in case the values go above 1, because I just want this to be a mask. And that's it. Sorry, 0.1. Yeah, you can see the pattern now. Sorry, it was 1 here, so it was very noisy. Cool. And let's add an entire force to everything. So pop local force, sorry, not noise, pop force. And let's set this to 2, set this to 3. And I want to expose these two options because right now they are local, they're internal to the node. So I'm gonna set this to call this velocity multiplier. Promote this, and it's called velocity multiplier. Okay, and then we do the same thing. Let's set it to 0.2 here, and then this one is going to be why is this not being added? Yeah, this was not getting added, so I'm gonna add it here. And I don't need that, so multiply, promote this. I'm gonna call this gradient force mult, and it was set to 20. And I'm gonna set this to 0 for now, just to see the effect. And let's call this dot product vel force, and call this noise. Let's hit play. Okay, so it looks like it's working and the values are not too strong. So we're going to keep that, and let's restore this to 0.2. Okay, everything is working. And let's see, let me think. I want to add one more thing. I want to import the points. Dot import this pop object 1, fetch geometry from dops. Should be pop object 1, I think. No, pop object. I'm going to use the particle surface and visualize using the particle mode velocity. And I'm going to change these to have red tones so they look like debris or some dust instead of blue. I'm going to make this a bit darker. Yeah, just to make the transition a bit better. And let's set the min and max 0.60. Yep. Cool. It's working. And this visualizer definitely helps to see everything. Okay, now one thing I don't like too much is, if you see here, we're getting this very uniform pattern, or something that is perfect and wrapping around Kong very well, which is fine, but I want to change a few things. I want to disturb this velocity, and I'm going to do that using a what's called the new node, the volume velocity node. Okay, and I'm gonna add curl, and we can check this. So let's create a grid. Let's do a bound node. And let's do a time shift. And go to maybe this frame. Delete. I'm gonna get a plane. Blast the plane. Now there's probably too much. Let's place the plane there and scatter points. I'm gonna use a volume trail node. And here, let's connect that. And I want to visualize the velocity field. And let's connect the original Kong. So it's not doing much. Set this to 10. And let's set it to the group. Yeah, we have to tell it which group that this will affect. And that's our noise added. So this is without and this is with. So let's see how that affects the sim. It's probably too strong as well. Because we're using that velocity and passing it to the particles, we may end up adding too much force. It's definitely breaking up the edges, but I think it's too strong. So let's set this to 2 and reduce the noise so it's the pattern is smaller, the frequency of the noise is smaller. Also, another thing we could do, I just thought about, is we can add where we're sampling the points here. Let's see, we're pretty much, yeah, this part, the gradient, we could also add it to the velocity. I'm gonna add a noise to the point position. So this is the original P. I'm gonna plug it into a noise, and instead of using the original P, let's do this. So instead of using the original P, I'm gonna add a noise to that. Set this to 0.25, and this is my new position now. So this is going to help as well break up, because the points are not going to do a perfect lookup where they should be, and that's going to help add more variation to the overall interaction between Kong and the particles. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for this sim. The next thing I want to do is I want to add the building itself. So let's copy this node. I'm going to disable everything, and I'm going to call this building collision. And instead, right now we're pointing to the second input, and that's where Kong is coming from. I'm going to connect this to the third input, and instead of diving inside and replacing all of these nodes, instead of replacing this and this, I'm going to just change it here, the second input, to point to the third input. So now the second channel is referencing. I would recommend putting a note or something for that, because it can get tricky if you don't remember. And this is the collision. Now obviously these values may not, well, probably will not work, because the volume gradient, the noise is the velocity is different, and we just have to be careful with how we're doing things. and how much force we're applying from each channel. But the collision is going to work for sure, so it will always be outside the SDF. Yeah, it's working. Okay, and last but not least, I'm gonna reduce the bounce with the ground, and I'm gonna add more friction from the ground. And I'm gonna add a pop color. I'm gonna set this to ramp by H. I'm gonna leave that, and I'm gonna set it to red when they start and green when they die. Sorry, green in the middle and then blue at the end. So let's set this to 0.5. Sorry, I didn't connect the node. And what I like about this mask is we can use it to hide the particles in and out. So we don't want to see them or make them visible as they get born. In the first frame or the first 2 frames, we don't want them visible. So we want to hide them, and we can do that using this mask. And I also want to hide them before they die. And the idea is to reduce the P scale, so the size changes as the particle are going to die, as they get closer to dying, so we don't have a pop in and they nicely fade into nothing, so we lose them nicely basically. And that's pretty much it. I think the gravity is too strong here, so maybe let's set this to -4 and let's take a look. And let's maybe visualize the Kong, maybe this as well. I'm going to increase the cache size to 15. I think the gravity now is too low, sorry. Here it's taken too long for them to fall, but that's something we can tweak. I'm gonna hide the SDF of the environment and just leave Kong because I think it's hiding too much particles. Sorry. Let's hit play. No, sorry, we missed something, obviously. I'm gonna enable all of this and this as well, and the interaction with Kong was off, but now it's not. Okay, so I'm gonna cache this and do a playback, and we'll continue in the next video. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in a bit.